What's up, good people? What is up? What is up? I'm gonna switch up the style today. My son said all my pictures look the same, so I gotta switch that up, right? So same hat, same everything. I said I changed my shirt. So anyway, let's have a conversation today about getting over a breakup. Bad breakup, good breakup. Everything's amicable. Everything was nasty. Let's just talk about a breakup. Let's just talk about a breakup and things that you should do. I made a list, so I'll try to keep this as brief as possible. They're doing a tag sale, man. I've been meaning to do a tag sale of my own. I just got to get to it. So first thing after a breakup, again, good, bad, mutual, horrendous, divorce, separation, living together, cohabitating, whatever at that time. And I'm talking about a substantial amount of time. A substantial amount of time. I would call that more than 2 years. It can vary. You know, people can really feel a certain type of way. It's probably be more than 2 years. You know, whatever you consider substantial. But I'm talking about life investment, and it could be a shorter time, 2 years or so, and you gave them a kid. If you're a woman, if you gave them a kid, or if you had a kid, you know, you're a guy and you have a kid with this woman, and you know you really wanted things to work out, and for whatever reason they don't. Right, so it's substantial life investment. Maybe that's just the way I should put it. Whether it's time, energy, money, resources, and or children are involved. So let's get into it. First thing is you got to take your time. Take your time. So I used to listen to back before we had the interweb. Back before we had the interweb, I used to go to work on a midnight shift, and at the time I was really unhappy in my marriage. So I would listen to this lady. I can't remember her name, but she had a radio show. It was a call-in show. She ended up getting into trouble because she said the N-word. And she didn't say it in a pejorative way, but she said it on the radio. I think that was the end of her radio show career when she said that. But to me, and they would so I would get into work, and then I would listen to that, you know, in between calls and stuff when I was sitting in the car. That was, you know, what I listened to for a while. And they used to do a replay like around 3 a.m. So I used to catch the stuff that I didn't miss. So anyway, she used to say all the time. She used to call everybody Cookie. So if you're older, if you're older, you might remember who I'm talking about. I don't remember her name, but she used to call everyone Cookie. And she would say, "Listen, Cookie, I say all the time, you got to take your time after divorce." And for her, it was always half the time. So if you were in a 5-year relationship, she would say it takes 2.5 years for you to recover mentally. And of course, you know, being young, you know, you think you can, young and male, you think, God, it don't really take 2 years. I can move on and stuff. Let me tell you, as an older guy, if you are heavily invested, you really love that person, or they're giving you children or whatever, it's gonna take that time. And that may seem like a long time, right? To really get there. If you were in a 10-year marriage, according to her, it would take 5 years for you to really kind of recover from the 10 years of life that you were in. Something to think about. You know, everybody's going to be different. There's obviously going to be nuances and stuff depending on what time you emotionally and mentally checked out, but it takes time. It takes time. So take your time. In that time, I'm going to break this down a little bit, and I did take notes, so I'm going to be looking down. I did take notes, so because I know this is a big issue. You got to take time to grieve. Time to grieve. That means go through the process. Take that time to grieve, to go through the mental manipulations that you need to go through, and just heal, right? And just, man, you know, and really kind of in that time of grieving, deal with your emotions, right? Well, I'll get to that in a minute here, but just take time to grieve. You got to take time for yourself. You got to take time for yourself, right? There may be a desire with these divorce parties that people are throwing now. There may be a temptation to really kind of just get out there and celebrate and just run the world, and I'm free, and I can go on these vacations, and I can do this and I can do that. And again, I'm talking about people, and two people who are mostly who are emotionally invested. Now, if you weren't emotionally invested, it was just a paycheck to you, then that is what it is, you know. So, but if you're emotionally invested and you really love that person, and you got physical feelings and emotional connections and ties to that person, and you gave that person children, or you had children with that person, you really got to take time for yourself. Take time to grieve. Take time for yourself. Take time to learn from yourself. And you got to take time to process. So that's three things I'm saying. You can wrap them up into one, but I'm saying that take time to grieve, go through it, cry. You know, go through it. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to cry. It's okay to feel sad. It's okay to feel a range of emotions. Time for yourself. You know, got to run the streets. Figure out who you are. Figure out what you want, where you want to go. Take time, and then of course take time to process. And in that processing, here's what a lot of people don't talk about enough. You have to look at everything you did wrong in that relationship. What did you do wrong? Everybody will say, it's very, very easy to say they did this, they did that, they cheated, they were unfaithful. I couldn't trust them with the kids. I couldn't trust them, right? They were just they didn't spend the money right. They did this. They had a drug addiction they didn't tell me about. They lied to me. And that's fine. But take time to ask yourself, what did you do wrong? Were you supportive of them? Did you give them a reason? Or, I mean, did you shut down emotionally? Did you shut down financially? Did you shut down physically and sexually? Did you shut down? What did you do wrong? And if you think that you didn't do anything wrong, and that's the problem right there. If you don't have any level of responsibility and culpability in that, then that ought to be a red flag to you. And if you write me in the comment section and say, no, they did this, they cheated, there's no excuse to that, then that tells me that you're a problem. It tells me that you're a problem because you did something wrong. Even if you weren't supportive enough, you weren't loving enough, even if you weren't, a good listener, right? You have to take time to reflect because nobody is perfect. And I'm not saying that I'm not trying to justify anybody's cheating or stepping out or whatever. I'm not justifying anybody's bad behavior in any way. But there is some level of responsibility. And when you learn to look at yourself and do some self-reflection, when you learn to look at yourself and do some serious self-reflection, that makes you a better person, and that will make you a better mate for somebody else. Yeah, that person I might have been with, what might have been, as we've been talking about, lack of leadership, lack of emotional control. But here's some things I can improve on. That's taking time for yourself and being a self-reflective person and being a mature person, right? And that's processing things. Next thing that was take time, right? Next thing is manage your emotions. You're going to feel angry. You're going to feel sad. You're going to feel bitter. You're going to feel resentment. You're going to feel isolated. You're going to feel lonely. You're going to feel betrayed. All these different types of emotions, and you're going to have to deal with that. And that's going to take time to process as well, right? Take time to feel what you feel. There is no right or wrong. There is no right or wrong thing. Take time to deal with your emotions. Do not take your open wounds that are still festering and then bring them to somebody else and then bleed all over you. And this managing your emotions and taking time to process can be through therapy as well, right? If you think that you need that. You're going to feel isolated, lonely, alone, bitter, angry, resentful, depressed. Losing a long-term loved one, particularly, 10, 15 years of marriage, is like grieving a death. It's the same emotions as going through a death in the family. This person was your ace. This person picked up the kids. This person was there every day. They did this. They did that. The small little things, the big things. They did all that. and you no longer have that. I know that the last few years may have been, or last few months or whatever, may have been extremely toxic in a situation that you may feel that you may have needed to get out of. But that doesn't mean that there weren't some good times. That doesn't mean that there weren't some good times. And I've said this before, I'll say it again, right? If you can work on a marriage, and that makes it seem all so much worthwhile. And I definitely advocate for fighting for your marriage. And if you fight for it, and the fighting for it is a lot of times thinking about the good times that you had and saying, man, we got to get back to that place. And I'm saying to say that, that those good places that you have in your mind, they're still there. They're still there mentally. And you can still remember the time that she made you laugh, and the way that you guys made love, or the way that he tickled your feet, or the time he stood up for you, or whatever, right? You remember these good times. And so those remembrances, which is again time of processing, time of healing, time of reflection, time of it's helping you to manage your emotions, right? And managing your emotions doesn't mean that you are breaking in or busting in his car windows. I'll get into this in a little bit, right? But you got to manage, your contact as well. So that's managing your emotions, and all of this may need therapy. And therapy is just time. It's just time talking out all the things that you're going through. Your confidence is going to be destroyed. Your confidence may be destroyed, not going to be, but may be destroyed, right? Particularly if you were cheated on, or they were emotionally, psychologically abusive, saying nobody's ever going to want you, you're ugly, you're older, right? This confidence again might not be the things that they've said in a manipulative type of way, but it could also be, right? You're older, right? They took 10 years of your life, 15 years of your life, 20 years of your life, 5 years of your life, whatever it is. They took that time, and then along the way that now you're older, now you can't have kids, or you got kids, and now you're a single mom or single dad, and who's going to want you, and all this type of stuff, right? And so your confidence may be destroyed. Maybe they said these different type of things. Now you gave them kids, and now you're fluffier, right? Your confidence is going to be gone, right? Confidence is going to be gone. Is not. I keep saying is. I don't want to say is. Could be, maybe, possibly gone. There's a lot of people there today. Everybody's getting their workout in. Weekends are always like this. Then there's no place to park. So that's that confidence, right? Let me park my car before I do this. For all you that are nervous about me driving all the time, right? I'm parking. I'm paying attention. Yeah, anger, cheating, right? Gave him the best years. You gave him children. Your confidence is gone. Next point I want to bring up is, what do we do now, right? Again, what do you do now, right? You have this feeling of depression, hopelessness, right? What do you do now, right? This person was my ace. This person is gone, right? This again, it's like a death. It's like a death. This person is gone. We might have had our bad times, but I depended on them for their finances, for their resources, for their all this other stuff. And I'm not going to get into the financial aspect of it, but I depended on this person, right? They picked up the kids. They rubbed my back. They were there when I wanted to talk about my rough day. Who's going to do that now, right? So, and what do I do now? I'm bigger. I'm heavier. I'm older. I'm less financially stable. What am I going to do? I had a good friend, still a good friend. He was going through a divorce. I called him every day. Because I had gone through it at that time. And listen, going through a divorce can be extremely isolating. You figure out who your friends are when you go through a divorce. You figure out who your friends are when you go through a divorce. Let me say it again. You figure out who your friends are when you go through a divorce. All those couples that you used to talk to, right? They don't talk to you anymore, right? And then you're, particularly couples, right? And then if you're a guy, I can't speak for the women, but if you're a guy and you go through a divorce, right, and you had couple friends, the woman doesn't want you talking to that man anymore. The woman If you're a guy and you're a guy, two guys, and your friend's wife or girlfriend doesn't want you talking to that guy anymore. They don't. So you feel alone and isolated. Because now you had all these couple friends, particularly if you're married for an extensive period of time. You had all these couple friends. Now the woman doesn't want you hanging out with them because she's always going to take the woman, not always, but she's probably going to take the woman's side, right? Oh, your friend's a jerk. Don't talk to this guy. If he cheated, then you're obviously going to be cheating. So I can't have you around this guy anymore. And sometimes the guys do it, right? They're like, listen, I got to keep peace in my home. I got to cut you off, man. I got to. Even if they don't say it, this is exactly what's going on. So it can be extremely isolating. Extremely isolating. So my friend, he was going through it, and I had gone through that, and I knew the isolation was going on. I called him every day, let him know he wasn't alone. Talk to me. Let's go out. Let's go out to breakfast. Every day I was off, right? Two, 3 times a week. Let's go to get breakfast. Let's hang out. Let's talk. I didn't want him to get depressed. I know it's bad. I know it's just talk, man. Let's work through this. Because I didn't have that. It was difficult. Life gets better. I'm trying to do these in order. All right, I might switch them around a bit. Just remember that life's going to get better, right? After you've done your time of grieving to yourself, working on yourself, time to process. You've been managing your emotions or managing your emotions. You've gone through the isolation process. You're asking yourself, what are you going to do now, right? You have to rebuild new friends or strengthen the old friends, rebuild time with family, because marriage. If you're married, right, if you're married, you really should be. Your time and energy really should be your family, your immediate family, your wife and your children, your nuclear family, if that's the way. And those connections that you have with other people are not as strong as they were, so you might need to rebuild those. Sometimes people never liked your wife or never liked your husband, so they'll take this "I told you so" attitude. I told you I didn't like this dude, so I'm going to say you got to stay away from people like that. You don't need to hear that at that time. You don't need to hear that at that time. Maybe 5 years down the road, you guys can laugh about it, talk about it. But when you're going through that, you don't need to hear that. You don't need to hear that. I told you so. I never liked this dude. Told you he was a bum. I told you he was no good. Told you he was trash. You ignored the red flag. That's going to whittle down your confidence even more, because it's going to say to you, you don't know how to pick and select. And you don't need that right now. What you need is to be built up. What you need is to be set on the right path. That's what you need. What you need is to recover. We can do a game assessment. We can do a game assessment later. You should be doing a game assessment now of what you did wrong. But other people piling on that, putting stuff in your head, putting stuff in your ear, you don't need that. You need time for inner peace, inner self-reflection. And you don't need other people saying that. You don't need that. That's not healthy. Life is going to get better as you're doing this, going through this process. And again, according to the radio host I used to listen to, it's going to take a while. As a man with personal experience, it's going to take a while. It's going to take a while. It's not going to be a month. It's not going to be a year. It's not going to be that way. It's not going to be a month. It's not going to be a year. But life is going to get better. You got to focus on new things. New relationships, building old relationships. Work on your health. Work on your diet, right? You might be older, might be on medications. You want to get off those medications, you got to eat better. You got to work out. Develop a hobby. If you're an older guy, right? Work on getting a six-pack, like I'm trying to do. Sign up for a marathon. Sign up to a gym membership. Take jiu-jitsu classes. Learn an instrument. Take some painting classes, art classes. Develop a hobby. See some bikers right now, right? Join a bike club, join a singing club, opera club, book club, knitting club, video game club, something. You got to develop new things. Of course, if you have children, they should be a priority. I'm not going to advocate for anybody to abandon their children. I know that sometimes it's going to be difficult and tough because the other person is being completely unreasonable, uncooperative, and they want more money and this, that, and the other. But you should fight for your marriage, number one. And number two, if the marriage is gone, stay in your kid's life as much as possible. People want to, give $80,000. I know people who spent $80,000 in custody hearings and stuff. I know other people just said, listen, I just can't afford it. And, I'll just do what I can. Your kids need you. Your kids need you. You got to cut that person completely off. You got to accept the fact that this is gone. And that's difficult. You got to accept the fact that this relationship is gone. And you got to, by accepting that fact that the relationship is done, gone, over. What did Birdman say? Is we finished or is we done? Right? This relationship is finished and it's done. You got to accept that and then move on. And that means cut off all communication via email. I'm talking about particularly if you don't have children, right? And even if you do have children, it should just be about business. But otherwise, emails, text messages, all that should be cut off and blocked. Delete photos, Facebook, social media, delete that person. I had friends, multiple friends. I worked in the police department. Divorce there was, and the crazy thing is people think cops are just whatever. They're always getting divorced. If you look at the divorce rates, it's really not that high in comparison, right? It's really not that high. I mean, it's high, but it's not. There's other professions where it's like that. But, it's bad. It's bad all over America. But these guys would still be talking to them, having photos and social media, and you got to stop all that, man. You got to stop all that. Friends of friends, and you're looking at pictures of them moving on and stuff. You got to cut all that off. You got to cut all that off, and that's going to help your mental processes because they're not always there in your face. They're not always trying to contact you, or you're not going to be tempted to contact them. Delete them. That is the true sign that the relationship is over and that you are processed and that you're ready to move on. Is that you have deleted photos, deleted the good time, deleted photos, and removed them from social media and or have blocked them. It's over. It's over. It's difficult and tough to hear. It's a part of the grieving process, but it's over. So, and don't look for new love immediately. Take the time to really get to know yourself. What is it that you like? What is it that you don't like? Because you've grown together. And sometimes there is a certain genre of movie that this person liked. And they always, kind of just did what they wanted to do. And so now you got to figure out who you are, particularly if you got married young, right? So there's this idea about decentering men. I've talked about this a little bit, and I think that can be healthy. Not because I'm your world and stuff, and I certainly want to be the type where I'm your world, but this idea of decentering men says that if I don't have a man in my life, I'm still okay. I'm still okay. I'm still okay. So you have to know that you are okay. And the way that you can know that you're okay and develop a mindset of being okay and moving towards being okay is if you take the steps that I've already laid out for you. Take the time for yourself, manage your emotions. Ask yourself, what do I do now? Right, where am I going? How am I going to get there? What's it going to look like when I'm there? Understand that life gets better. You have to cut them off completely. And don't look for new love, right? Because you don't want to have an open wound and then be bleeding all over somebody else, right? Hurt people hurt people. So don't go around bleeding all over everybody else. Don't, try to entwine anybody else in your relationship. You got to take the time to really get to know yourself and really heal from what you've been through. So I hope that I said something today. And I want to give a shout out because I had thought about this. And I thought about this, I was going to write about. I was laying in bed, or my next video. And then I get up and I'm about to go work out and I check my email. And somebody had requested this. So shout out to them. And if you have anything else, right, my email is in the description and some of my other pages as well. I'm probably going to be stopping Captain Hunter's podcast. I'm not going to delete it, but I'm probably going to stop that podcast. It's going down a path that I don't really want it to go down. I mean, I can obviously control it. And maybe if there's something really, really important, maybe I just use that for just breaking down videos. I don't know. But definitely, if you want to hear police stuff, head over to LMH Consulting Services. That one, I talk about more police and political stuff. And this obviously is going to be geared towards self-improvement. This is another one that's going down, speaking more about relationships. But listen, you got to improve in relationships. You got to improve your overall mindset and mind frame and all that. And I want to thank you to all the ladies who are listening. They are the bulk of my, I look at the analytics. So, and I want to thank you to the 90% of you who are listening and not subscribed. So make sure you hit that subscribe button, right? If you like the content that you're hearing, if there's something you want me to talk about, hit that subscribe button, hit that rate and subscribe button. Hit that bell for notifications. And thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to check out this. If you're looking for a life coach, I do life coaching. If you have a situation where in the police that you think that they acted incorrectly, you want a professional police expert to take a look at that. That's what I do as well. So I look at, mostly I do it for lawyers, but I do it for individuals, right? I take a look at their cases and, give you a written statement about, or provide whatever you want as far as expert testimony. So those are my services. But what qualifies me to talk about what I just talked about is, listen, I've been through life experience, 51, and as I record this, I'm 51, and been through some breakups. And so, if you can listen to an older guy, if you can listen to a mature guy, and you can stop yourself from making mistakes, you can save yourself a world of trouble. If you're a 25-year-old person or a 30-year-old person, and you can look up and look at somebody who's been through this stuff and not make the same mistakes that they made, you can save yourself a world of trouble. I say this, and I'm going to leave this off here. When I was 20 years old, or 20 in my 20s, I said this before, so you might have heard it. When I was in my 20s, I heard something that changed my life. I definitely said this before. When you're 20, you're worried about everybody looking at you. When you're 40, you don't care if they're looking at you. And when you're 60, you realize that they were never looking at you. Now, I'm not 60 yet, so I don't know if that I don't know if that's true that they were never looking at me. But when I was in my 20s, and I was 25-ish or so, 24, 25, 26, something like that, I don't remember exactly, I said I'm going to adopt the mindset of a 40-year-old, or maybe even 60-year-old. I was like, I'm going to think older. If they were never looking at me, and it doesn't matter, then even as a 20-year-old, because this is why you're flashing and flossing and stuff, right? And my daughter and I, we had gone to a comedy show last night. It was terrible. I'm not going to tell you who it was, but it was terrible. It was absolutely terrible. Everybody was terrible. The host, the two warming up acts, and the main act were all terrible. It was terrible. There was a big name too. Terrible. So, cops are people watchers. We watch people, right? Even though I haven't been there in a while, I'm still watching people's hands, seeing who's wearing it, and I can just see like people who are dressed up and just wearing, and I can see who's in a comfortable relationship. I can see who's in a comfortable relationship. I can tell who's in a comfortable relationship and who's still trying to, in the early stages, trying to impress people. I can tell. Or they're trying to impress the crowd. I can tell. And it reminds me, I plan to start doing episodes about body language, right? I study a lot of body language. So anyway, you gotta develop the mindset that says, I don't care what people are thinking. And that comes out in your dress, comes out in your mannerisms, comes out in all these different type of things. So you have to, you really have to develop that mindset. And that was a mind frame that I said that I was going to have, is that I'm not going to care what these people think, and they're probably not looking at me anyway. And so that's the same thing I want you to develop in your life. Develop the mindset that that their opinions aren't important. What's important is my own peace and my own happiness. I don't have to buy the latest gear in order to impress anyone. I don't have to have the latest car. I don't have to have the latest bag, whatever, right? If you can adopt that mindset, you can save yourself a lot of heartache, and you can save yourself a lot of money, right? Because you don't feel the need to always, jump in the newest ride because to impress someone. And if you as a 25, 30-year-old can get to that place now, you can save yourself a world of hurt, a world of heartache, and a lot of money. You can develop the mindset that says, I don't care what these people think because they don't pay my bills. Again, another story is when I was in church, my friends and I, we had gone to this preacher. He's since passed. He was a good preacher. And he said, impress you, and for what? This is what he was saying. I grew up in a Kojic church, right? Church of God in Christ. Very, very firebrand and very musically oriented and all that kind of stuff. Organs playing when the preacher's speaking, that kind of stuff. And he was like, impress you, and for what? You don't pay my rent. You don't pay my light bill. You don't buy my groceries. Why am I trying to impress you? So he said that in my 20s. I heard somebody else say exactly what I told you before, that, about they were never looking at you. If you can adopt that mindset, you can save yourself a lot of heartache and a lot of pain. You can save yourself a lot of heartache, and you can probably save your marriage. That's why I say social media, you got to get off of that. You got to get off of that, particularly if you're married. It is absolutely horrible for marriages. Absolutely horrible. And if anybody wondering, that wasn't the downfall of mine. It was not the downfall of mine, but I'm just saying, I just look. And again, when I knew social media, all the calls we go on, I know social media was destroying people's relationships. So anyway, I'm going to leave it up there. I don't want to start rambling. So that's my advice. Take your time, manage your emotions. You have to work on building up your confidence. What do I do now? Right? I'm older. I'm on medications. I'm financially broke. What do I do now? You got to figure that out. Counseling, therapy. You got to cut them completely off of your social media. Remind yourself that life does get better. Studies have proven us that life gets better. It doesn't get dramatically improve when you're in your silver divorces after 50. It doesn't really improve that much, but generally everybody's life does get better. Some, there's different studies. Some say women's lives gets better. Some say, that emotionally they get better or faster or something like that. And then there are other studies that say the man, you think you lose all this money, but you end up recovering it. So I'm skeptical about a lot of this, without these studies, but and don't look for new love. Don't go around bringing your heartache and pain into other people. Make sure that you deal with your kids and love your kids and be there for your kids. So as much as you can. And it's not about buying them stuff. I could go on and on. I could go on and on about buying your kids stuff, but what they need is your time and presence and attention. Much love and peace. Let me know your thoughts and your opinions. Hit that like button. Hit the like button and subscribe. 90% of the viewers are not subscribed. What's up with that?